Nothing is cooler, sexier, and more significant to the world we live in today than a tiger.
That's quite a statement. Welcome to the Thunk Tank. Come in the tank. We're thinking, and we're drinking,
And we're thunked.
and we're thunked.
Oh my god, I'm probably more beer than man if we go far enough back at this point. Alright.
Cue the tape.
Play the
I'm
clip.
giving the cue the tape sign, Johnny.
Oh,
Play
sorry.
that clip. Play that clip. This is a professional podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
I saw tiger.
Oh, you know what that means, everyone.
Now I understand. I saw tiger. Tiger saw man.
It's such a stupid lyric.
And thank you for listening to Thunk Tank Podcast. We welcome you to join us next week, please. I think that sums it up.
Yep. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time. Have
That
a safe
about
quarantine.
summarizes. Yeah, have
We
a
should
good
put
rest
out
of
a-
your quarantine. About summarizes Tiger King right there.
We should put out like a 2-minute episode once, like just like talk for 2 minutes and then
my
be like,
God.
all right,
We did
thanks
that.
for
We did our
joining.
pizza cast, or pizza roll cast.
Oh yeah, we should post that. Like,
I don't think that ever hit the interwaves.
we
It
should do it when we're deep. Well, we are deep in the quarantine. That's why we're doing a Tiger King.
I feel so
Ti-
deep in
Tiger
the
King
quarantine.
cast.
Yeah,
I'm deep within the shag of the quarantine.
aren't they going to
I'm
look
in the
back
fibers.
and realize that for Tiger King to come out during a quarantine would be like the best marketing thing that could ever happen?
Tiger
to
King
them?
might have caused COVID. That might be it.
I heard there's a connection between the Tiger King.
It's
and
Tiger
COVID,
King,
yeah.
dogs. They wanted it too because all their people are home now.
Let's
The
explore that this
CDC is now
episode.
saying
Yeah.
that not only
Yeah.
were they lying about the masks, they were also lying about.
All right, so
Joe Exotic
somehow
Tiger.
we've
And
once
you know who
again
runs
ended
the
up
CDC?
doing. We've
The
ended up
dogs.
doing another Corona cast somehow.
Well, I
thought
think
we were trying to
the
get
fact
away
that
from
Tiger King came out during COVID is a factor.
Well, Corona's just part of. It's kind of like a zombie apocalypse. It's just part of life now. If that happens, you just go on with your life,
You gotta
and it's just kind of part
understand
of it.
the context of society right now, why Tiger King's taking off as it is.
Yeah. It's
Or
like
Johnny, do you
any
think it would have been
historical
just as
event.
popular like streaming? I know it would have been pretty popular because Netflix clearly marketed it so that everywhere would be talking about it at the same time.
It would have
Like,
been still Netflix
they know how to
popular.
make things viral, right?
Yeah.
And it got viral in all the different ways the internet goes viral, memes.
Yeah,
Facebook,
I don't
like,
think
people
that's all
talking about
just.
it.
That's not just Netflix paying influencers, though. There is a genuine response to it. It's first of all, it's amazing. It's captivating. You can't look away, but you don't want to watch. It's one of those kind of train wrecks. But it's almost too weird to be real. But it's too weird to have been made up by somebody at the same time.
I think it's
So
more
I
like
think
a slow
surreal.
motion. I think it's more than a train wreck. It's like a slow motion plane crash, but the plane's made out of sheet metal.
I think it's more like a slow motion trolley problem where you're like, there's no direction that doesn't kill people,
Yeah,
but
because
one of these might be better than the others, and one of those might be turning Netflix off right now. I can't tell.
I described it to a friend of mine who hadn't seen it, and I said both the beauty and problem with this show is that everybody in the documentary thinks that they're the hero of the documentary, and everybody else thinks that the other person is the villain. But in
Well, yeah.
reality, they're all just fucking insane.
well,
They're all out of their minds. That's
They're
what's
all
great.
out of
He
their minds.
he told Carole Baskin, that fucking bitch. He told her that this is going to be the Blackfish equivalent of the big cat world, and then he made
so
a whole
niche.
episode about how she probably murdered her husband. With
I just saw
tigers.
that one. Yeah,
Wait, Johnny, for anybody that like knows about Tiger King, maybe even saw a clip here or there, but doesn't really know what the fuck it is, give us your summary since you've seen the
So
whole thing.
spoiler alerts. This is going to ruin the whole show for everyone. This episode.
yeah. If
So
you haven't seen it,
basically-
pause now, go watch it, and then listen to the rest of our episode.
But look at the road. still.
7 hours
Right.
later, yeah.
But the part that I found most fascinating was I realized that the similarities between Joe Exotic or Joe Maldonado Passage and Donald Trump are eerie. The similarities between the two, their personalities, and I think the big difference between them is if Trump was born gay and poor in rural Wyoming, he would have very much ended up like Joe Exotic. And I think if Joe Exotic was born into Trump's life, he would
Into
have
a
probably
millionaire life, yeah.
gone down Trump's route. But I actually have a clip of him explaining it really well.
Trump? I knew
Yeah,
he'd
Trump,
be a fan
Trump
of Tiger
getting
King.
into it.
I knew it.
Joe Exotic is the center of this, and it starts off the first episode. You think, wow, this guy's batshit, and then they show all these other people in that world, the big cat world, and then you come away being like, I think I might like him the best out of all of them. Not that he's a great guy, or not even that he's not morally reprehensible.
The fact that there's a big cat world is just its own.
Yeah.
Like,
So that was a joke from a Rogan stand-up like years ago. That there's more big, and it's true. There's more big cats in captivity. It's like 5,000 to 10,000 in the U.S. They don't even know. It could be 5. It could be 10,000, and there's only 4,000 in the wild. So that's just private American cat, like tiger keepers, have more than double what's in the wild. So who knows, like in South America and Asia and drug dealers all over the planet, how many of them have snow leopards and shit? But
well, we know Mike
so
Tyson
it's about
has
this. It's about this world
Shaquille O'Neal.
of big cats, because it was only
Shaq.
until recently that they were added to the endangered species list, and even like 15 years ago, it was still legal to sell them. And you could just buy a tiger cub for $2,000 and keep it in your property, and there was like no rules against it.
And
was
it's so
insane.
cute when it's a cub, and then it turns into a fucking tiger.
Yeah, and then you have a monster on your hands.
But if you're some
then
drug
Carole
dealing,
Baskins comes and saves it.
And
if
puts
I'm
it
a
in
drug
this
dealing
identical cage.
criminal,
Yeah.
if I'm a drug dealing criminal who wants to scare people around me and I need to get rid of bodies, a large, mal-tempered tiger is kind of the perfect thing. They eat bones and everything. So
Well, that's what
you
Joe
know,
Exotic was saying in how Carole Baskin, he thinks, got rid of her husband, threw him in the meat grinder, and they'll just dissolve everything in their stomach: bones, meat, hair, teeth.
And they had a meat grinder
Damn.
on site.
Yeah.
And her response to it, she goes, well, my meat grinder isn't big enough for a human body. And it was like, what?
Dude, just her
That's
eyes.
such a weird response. You could just
Your
cut his arms
response
off and
should
shove those
be,
in.
well, I'm not crazy enough to think that I should murder a human by throwing them in a meat grinder and feeding them to big cats.
So I can't wait to
Ideally.
talk about Carole
But there's so
Baskin,
many
but-
moments in that where I think, oh, ideally they wouldn't say what they just said.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing, is a lot of those side characters, they're on the surface a little more, dare I say, exotic or just eccentric. I think that guy Tom Stark or something, he's one of
the best. Tim Stark.
Tim Stark, he's one of those guys who you hear and on the surface he seems more crazy, but he's in some ways he's a little more just obvious, like where he talks about that guy who calls himself God, who has all the wise. He's like, I don't want to know how you train them tigers. I want to know how you
hold on, Joe.
trade all
Let-
those women.
Let me play it for you. Hold on.
It's such a good clip. But he's not as much of a game player in
So
as
this
those
is
other guys
I
are.
want to set up who Joe Exotic is, but since you're talking about Tim Stark, let me play a clip of
Yeah,
him.
he's
According to
incredible.
Thomas Jefferson, any law that you think is unfair or unjustice, it is your obligation, it is your responsibility to stand up against that bullshit law.
First of all, if you listen, he says any law that you think is injustice. It's not how you speak, but he keeps talking here. Listen. This explains what you're saying, Joe, how he's not insane, but he's crazy. You know what I mean? There's a difference.
He seems crazier than the rest of them on the like at first glance compared to a Joe
Right.
Exotic or a Carole Baskins. She's better at putting on a front because that's part of her marketing, is to put on a front to hide the crazy, which is really scary.
Hold on, there's more of Tim Stark here.
If people are concerned about tigers, they should be donating their money to places like mine,
To him.
where we breed them. Number one, they're an endangered species. Duh. What's the first thing you should do to protect an endangered species? Make more, not eliminate the source.
So, like,
Make
that
more.
makes sense on its surface, right? Like,
Yeah.
he thinks he's doing good stuff or something. But yeah, he's
What's
great.
his? I don't even know that guy. What's his relation to like Joe Exotic?
He's a breeder, isn't he?
He's just he's just a
Illinois.
collector. He's bought
He's
a bunch
another
of
person in this circle. Of
He's
big cats.
he's dealt with these guys. He's bought from both of them, so he knows them. Here's another clip of him.
It's just
that
some guy in Ohio, I think.
I just love. Oh wait,
Yeah, because it's a nationwide circuit of these people. That's the scary thing.
It's gotta
it's a
be
whole
small
community.
world of like less than 50 people.
No,
Yeah,
I
there's
think,
thousands of them across the country.
They show
Really?
they show maps where they do, like when he did that mall tour.
It's a whole network.
He went everywhere around the country, and yeah, I'm sure there's, like you say, there's people all around the country.
He had so many big cats, and he was selling them, like selling cubs and stuff, that like a bunch ended up in zoos and things unofficially through back doors and stuff.
Yeah.
Because like it's illegal to buy a cub, but If somebody has one and donates it to the museum or to your zoo, okay, like just find it. They're like it's $2,000 a cub. It's not that much money. A zoo can definitely make more than that. If you have a tiger display, you can't not have a tiger in it. But this is his other quote I have from him, which explains, and we'll get into who he's talking about in a minute. But
If he hits the giant size, then he's going to be 900.
wait, that's not it. Shit.
Was that Don? What's his name? Bhagavad or whatever?
Oh, that is it. Yeah, this is him. He's great. We're jumping ahead.
Are we?
All over the place.
Plus pounds, and he's going to be 11 and a
Listen how
half feet
crazy
tall.
he is.
And his chain's not been cleaned properly, so my shirt's ruined.
He says it so cuntily and passive aggressively to the trainer, and now my shirt's ruined. And then he looks at her and gets
sex
this
slave
fake
wife.
smile. Yeah.
His indentured sex slave wives.
Me and Doc were friends, for years. I kind of idolized him, hell, number one, not just because of the way he had the animal stuff he had, the way he had them women trained for his own damn, harem and shit. That's the first time I ever met him. The first time I ever went to Doc's way. First time I told him, I said, I don't need you to teach me a damn thing about animals. How the fuck you got these women trained?
And that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying about him being about like these big players like Joe Exotic and Don actually being the really maniacal, crazy ones, because they've been able to use this power to warp people around them. And he does have a harem, it seems like, at least from what I see.
He totally does.
Yeah.
He totally does.
Side note, like, I was just watching some of this upstairs. My current fiance, Yanka, who's Turkish, learned English about 5 years ago. When I turned the subtitles off, it's nothing. It could have been a different language.
It is a different language. It's whatever it is.
I struggle without subtitles.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's like when I was
100%.
younger and I was watching like British TV shows and I'm like, I don't understand anything. Sometimes you're just
Absolutely.
like, if you're not like super focusing, you'll miss the whole sentence.
Yeah.
It'll just sound like one kind of like tongue dancing on some sound, like
Yeah.
and you're like, fuck, I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas with
Well, I
normal
mean-
English, I can play it back in my head and like rehear it.
Yeah, I think it's attractive too because it's a big culture shock for a lot of people. Like I think a lot of the country,
It's a good reminder that this exists. It's like I'm not so bad.
They know it exists, but to see it in this way, this raw, is still pretty.
Yeah.
It's kind of pretty potent in this sense.
But it's
right?
also it's absurd, and it's the victims here are the cats, obviously, but you don't feel bad for any of the people involved. Like, you decided to go into a cage with a tiger, so whatever happens to you, like, no one feels bad. Or like, you decided to make your whole life about tigers, so when someone tries to take your tigers away, like, it's such an absurd like bullshit American thing to be worried about. You're not taking my damn tigers.
It really is.
He walked around his zoo with a revolver, like
I know.
in a holster, a cowboy holster, and he would always, to reasure people, he's like, "Oh, this isn't for the tigers. This is for Carole fucking Baskin and any
terrorists.
animal rights activists who break in. You're gonna shoot people who break into your zoo," which I guess makes sense. If they let a tiger out, it could hurt somebody. But like he specifically says this gun isn't to put down wild animals; it's for human shooting.
Well,
And
he
I
actually
thought that
says,
made it
"Shoot you
okay.
before I shoot my
Consider
cat."
that bitch to be one of the biggest terrorists in the exotic animal world right now.
one of the biggest terrorists in
One
the
of the
exotic animal
biggest.
world.
How many
right
terrorists
now.
are in the exotic
right now,
animal
Yeah,
world?
there's so many like metrics there. Of
Exotics top 10.
If
most
I were at
wanted.
a zoo and they were like, "Oh, this gun's for like the terrorists who want to attack us," I wouldn't feel better. Don't say that to me as like a way to make me feel better. How about that?
Well, he does actually tell people that, like Tommy says, he'll shoot you before he shoots his tiger, which implies that if the tiger is attacking you,
He'll shoot the human.
he's going to shoot you so the tiger doesn't get upset or you don't try to hurt the tiger. Like, what does that mean exactly?
Okay.
Yeah,
I want to find
it's-
out.
I'm
All right, Johnny. Why don't you give us like a sort of zoomed out like trajectory of where the show goes, and then we can get into the nitty gritties.
Yeah, the
All right,
last
so-
episode I think we both saw was with where they really dive into Carole Baskin's and the whole her
All right,
husband disappearing.
and
case
we'll,
file.
all right. So that's most of the characters. This is really more of a what do you call it, a case study and the characters involved rather than where it goes. So
Right.
that's fine. We can focus on the first few episodes. I'm going to play a clip of Joe Exotic explaining, and we started listening to it about his dad, but I'm going to play the rest of that clip because I think that really explains his psychosis, and I want to do some what's the term, armchair psychiatry.
I got arms on my chair.
Yeah, I think
On-
I
We're
think
all
that's,
good here,
I
yeah.
think that's what we're best at Funk Tank Podcast.
Okay, so this is him when he's saying that he found out he was gay at a young age and how he handled it.
And he goes, pretty straight. And I said,
Oh no, that's not it.
you watch porn?
That's another clip, though, folks.
That's the one
that's-
we're definitely going to get
That's
back
when he
to. Okay, here
workplace
it is.
harasses a 19-year-old into marrying him.
A straight 19-year-old, but we'll get to that. This explains a lot of that thinking.
These
I
are
think.
all
So, okay.
sentences.
Yeah, the grammatically correct
At the
ones.
age of 13, I knew I was gay. And I had a bad time struggling with it. When my father found out, he made me shake his hand in front of my mom and promised not to come to his funeral. So I had a real issue dealing with that. And one night I drove my car off a bridge. I broke my back and spent 5 years in braces.
It's a long time.
I went to Florida to do my therapy. And my neighbor was the manager of Lion Country Safari. And he brought home all the baby lions and baby monkeys and stuff at night to bottle feed. And that's where my attraction to exotic animals.
There's,
Look on Luke's face.
there's my first problem.
Luke's
It's
just
he said
imagining that-
and he
that
brought
scenario.
home all the monkeys and the
No,
lions.
all the baby monkeys and baby lions. And Luke's just trying to picture being in a house and your roommate just brings home baby monkeys to bottle feed.
That's like
and you're
worse
thinking,
than Kramer.
I guess
Kramer
I'll get
like
to this now.
Kramer eats your deli meat, but like he doesn't bring home baby monkeys. Like
But so if you drive your car off a bridge and
man.
break both of your legs, right? What are the chances you didn't give yourself some CTE on top of the trauma of? Because he said when I was 13, I knew I was gay, and
Yeah.
he struggled with that. And then how long until he was able to drive? At least 4 or
Yeah.
5 years. And then he goes to Florida, which is great for people's mental health. That state, and his neighbor so he's probably bedridden, fucked up on pills and medication and pain meds. And this guy's like, "Here, hold a chimp." I think
A baby chimp.
A baby chimp.
he got like a weird, almost fetishistic like attachment to
Yeah,
them.
I think that messed up whatever plastic his brain had left. It solidified into the big exotic animals are a good thing. And then
Well, maybe they loved him.
Well, that's
With
the
the
thing.
baby
It's the
monkeys?
unconditional love, but there's also the danger to it. There's a whole thing with exotic animal people say about like holding a tiger cub or being with a tiger because it's like riding a motorcycle or skydiving. Like you know it's not up to you anymore. You're not really in control.
Oh, people
the
love
tiger
to get
is,
that feeling of being out of
Right.
their
You're right.
control.
It's
yeah.
a pet version of a roller coaster ride versus just being on one of those things at the airport that moves really fast.
No, well,
That's
a roller
dog.
coaster is safe. A tiger, he just decides he wants to eat you.
Yeah,
or rip your
tiger's
arm
even
off.
That's
more
true,
risky.
Yeah, that's true. Especially
So-
because it's just a mega version of what you normally would think of as a
There's
cat.
also a sense of
Which is
like
fine.
I think control.
Oh, I
Like,
think it's
I am
largely
controlling
that,
this animal.
yeah.
And it respects me, so they don't want to feel like they're just like controlling it, like you're on a chain and you can't even come to me. They cuddle with it so as to like be like, yeah, this thing is dangerous. I'm in danger, yet I'm in charge. I have the power here. It seemed to be
Yeah.
a little bit about like
I think it's a lot of it
the
about
power.
that. And it's about using that power, like I was saying before, especially with that Don guy who has his harem. I mean, whether or not that's
Doc.
a good Doc, is that his name?
Yeah,
Why is his name Doc?
He's
I
a
have a
doctor
clip for that.
He's a doctor of mythic studies or some shit.
he's amazing. Let me just play. I have a bunch of clips of him.
I'm a
but
doctor
this
of
is-
beer. Do you
Hold
need
on,
any
before
help?
we get into him, I just want to bookend what you were saying about tigers and what these people get out of it, but what they blow it up into. This is him explaining the the amazingness of tigers.
Nothing is cooler, sexier, and more significant to the world we live in today than a tiger.
That's quite a statement.
And it's still a grammatically correct sentence.
It's
That's
a
the brilliance
sentence.
of it.
I think we should open the episode with that.
Probably. Yeah.
I'm just gonna
there's more.
paste it in
We'll,
the
we'll take
front.
care. We'll take care of it in post.
There's
Yeah.
the second half to the clip, and this is really where you get to see how his inner psyche works. Okay.
It has this primordial calligraphy that tells a message just in its very image. Everyone loves them. Anyone who says they don't is just insecure and broken.
And then he gives that
According to Tom-
dead-eyed cult leader smile look to the camera after he says, "Is dead inside and broken."
They all do that. Carole Baskins does that so well too.
Yeah.
Well, you said this earlier about like everyone on camera felt like they were the hero of the documentary
Oh, yeah.
and the other people were the villains.
Right.
I got very much reminded of like the Office kind of feel.
Oh, I get
And
Game
one
of
of the-
Thrones reminded because Carole
Well,
Baskins.
no, I know
is
the
definitely
Cersei thing, but
Cersei Lannister.
I meant like
yeah.
in both the British and the American Office, there's the sense that these people have their idiosyncrasies and their sort of like problems in life, but it's being amplified by the fact that there are cameras there. So Andy Bernard is weird,
Yeah.
but he's extra weird because he's trying to perform in front of cameras.
Right, like how Doc actually tells the camera crew where to get shots and shit. He's already performing even before
He's
the,
directing.
Yeah, even
He
before the
directs
cameras start rolling,
crew.
but they are.
Well, because that's the
Yeah.
other thing. These guys build a little kingdom where they're the king of it, and they're
Yeah.
and everyone is scared of it. They're
And if you're
their
king of a
tigers,
lion, you're
you
a
know?
king.
Right? These are my tigers. You're only here, and
Yeah.
the people that work for them are crazy cat people, and they will do
Really?
whatever they're told because they are the ones with access to the tigers. They can separate me from these tigers. Like I can't. I work $100 a week at a tiger rescue. I can't afford to buy my own tiger. So if I leave here, I'll never get to see them again. So they put up with so much, and they're able to abuse
Yeah.
the people around them because cat people are fucking nuts. There's also a guy, you guys haven't learned much about him. He's in the first episode, but he figures more towards the end of the series. He's the guy, the informant who helped get Joe Exotic arrested and sent to jail.
What was
He's the
his
big
name?
fat guy who owns a bunch of strip clubs and just likes big animals.
I was gonna say I don't remember that, but it sounds about right.
That sounds like a good bio.
Yeah, nothing
This is-
throws me at this point.
th-
with
this
show.
is what I was
big
go-
cats, owns a bunch of strip clubs.
Yeah,
This is what I was going to open the episode with. Hold on.
Animal people are nuts, man. And I might be one of them people. I don't know.
That's
But
the guy with no legs.
They're all half
God.
out there,
Oh, I know
man.
that
They're
guy, yeah.
crazy.
And then this guy.
You know, the monkey people are a little bit different.
Okay, good boy. Good boy.
You know, they're kind of strange, but the big cat people are backstabbing pieces of shit.
So
You can't categorize people with like a pattern of behavior, like the big cat people.
yeah,
But you kinda can.
That's
Okay, so-
that's
so
the type
the
of
doc-
people we're dealing with here.
the Doc guy and the Joe Exotic guys, they both started out as magicians, stage musicians who used animals.
They're performers.
They're both performers.
Yeah.
They both decided to build a little empire of their own filled with giant, scary animals.
Yeah.
They both are into multiple partners, and they're both into just like controlling the narrative and making themselves into these,
So narcissism.
characters. Total malignant narcissism. That's the whole like Trump Joe Exotic thing. He's definitely a malignant narcissist, just like our president. And you can see it. He doesn't think there's anything wrong with what they both had fucked up dads. Both their brothers died young from drugs. Joe Exotic said he started the zoo because his brother was hit by a drunk driver or something.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
And meanwhile he ends
That's
up
right.
using a bunch of meth and using
What
meth
age
to
were they
ensnare.
both at when that happened, that trauma?
I mean younger, 20s
younger?
or younger. Yeah, I don't know the exact age, but I just was
No, I
making a
just
list
mean
of
like
big
when
things.
it happens like before the age of 10 is usually when it can
No,
trigger
I
like a
think they
legit
were,
mental
I think they
illness.
were older.
If
It
I
was
if I can be
older,
an
but-
armchair psychologist here.
Yeah, I mean, I
But they're
think the
both
mental
obsessed
illness
with-
is apparent though.
Yeah, they're
regardless.
both obsessed with like the cult of personality stuff, and they're both malignant narcissists. The similar, and they're both obsessed with their hair and appearance. Like the
Appearance,
similarities
yeah.
are amazing. But Joe Exotic marries two straight men at the same time. That's like the level of insanity that you can pull off when you build your own little insular world like that. Because it's his zoo. Who's going to tell him you can't have two husbands? You know.
Well, I mean, he didn't
doesn't he
legally
live
do
in-
it. He just had a ceremony.
Doesn't he live in states?
Yeah.
No, it says didn't it say on like a certificate that so and so, or maybe that was just a plaque or something for the ceremony that the three of them were married.
Oh, I'm sure it wasn't official. Polygamy is not legal in any states in the U.S. I don't think.
Right. Yet here we are.
Not yet. Not yet.
Wait, so Johnny, you mentioned that he ended up in jail. You want to like just say why?
So he went to jail for hiring a hitman on Carole Baskin, who we haven't even really introduced yet.
Yeah, we got to introduce Carol.
But the documentary, you're really not sure. He might have been set up. I mean, he definitely wanted her dead, but he's also a meth head, just rambling and ranting about his. We got to take that bitch out.
He has so many, incredible videos of his Carole Baskin. Say, did you see the one where he cut out the eyes of her husband and went behind it like one of those masks at a carnival or something?
I didn't see
one
that
of those
clip.
you put your face in, but it was just the eyes, and he's rambling about how I'm come back from the dead to get you, bitch. Because he's convinced that she killed him.
So Carole Baskin,
it's just
quick.
unhinged shit like that a not crazy person doesn't do.
She is totally nuts. She's the ultimate crazy
Scary.
cat lady.
She's got those eyes when
Florida
she just
woman.
stares at the camera.
I don't know. Have you guys noticed this from like being on the internet? But like, so my current fiance did not watch anything except episode 1. And when I was talking about the Carol girl, she was like, "Oh, like I thought she was like the sane one in the series."
No, she's the Cersei Lannister.
Apparently, she's been reading on the internet that like the story is Joe Exotic is crazy and Carol is like a normal person who got caught up in this.
Well,
that's what Carol wants you to think.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm saying like, why is it that the internet is just concluding that?
They're not,
because the similarities between them are extraordinary. It's just she does run an animal rescue where she doesn't buy and sell big cats. She takes them from zoos and things but she also goes full Karen and will like send out emails and be like, this place is inhumane, or that's how she started pissing Joe Exotic off.
Websites or
but she also makes mad money off her cat rescue. She doesn't pay, and all of her employees are volunteers. Yeah,
so she doesn't have to pay them anything.
Yeah,
but also it's a little bit disingenuous.
And she gets
I run
off
a rescue, but then also like have a zoo.
That's Joe Exotic.
She gets off on. Well, she calls them donations instead of admission.
Yeah,
she gets
Fuck
off.
That though, we know what you're doing.
She gets off on being the cat person.
A little exotic-y, Luke.
She gets off on being the big cat person the same way Joe Exotic.
Let me tell you something.
I consider that bitch to be one of the biggest terrorists in the exotic animal world right now.
So I'm on Joe Exotic's side. Convince me otherwise.
Yeah. Let me play you another clip of her that I think will make Luke really appreciate her and how well-informed of a person she is.
I really believe in life that you can only be good at one thing. With saving the cats, it's one thing that I can fix if I can just stay focused on that. So I don't read the newspaper, I don't watch news on television unless there's a cat involved.
So that's the person.
That's such a brilliant advertisement of your ignorance and stupidity.
I don't read the newspaper. I don't watch TV. I'm cut off from the world unless direct connection to cats.
And it's not because she said
scary,
like
dude.
it's for me because I'm mentally ill or like this is just how I cope with my life. She says I really believe you can only be good at a single thing. So you can't bother reading about the news and that means if you try to talk to her about the weather, Star Wars, elections, pick a thing. She'll be like, well, what about the cats involved in it? That's all her brain can handle. She's
Meanwhile,
definitely out
would
of
you
her
guys
damn
agree
mind.
that at getting older as humans, you've realized that it's cross-pollinating and getting like knowledge in many different domains that you start to like abstract away from it and be like, this is what it means to be a good person.
But here's the thing. That's the opposite of what a lot of people as they get older necessarily
They tunnel into
tend to
one
do.
way of
right?
being.
Because you get older, you get more tired. It's easier to settle into your views, and that requires work to do.
I'm getting more tired.
I know. That's what I'm saying. You're looking tired because you have to constantly redefine your grasp on reality. That's very difficult the older you get.
To
I feel
rebuild
like.
your model of reality.
because you've gotten through doing what you've been doing.
To
for
go
so
back to the
long.
drawing board is hard.
Yeah, who wants to do that?
You got to wake up and you're like, oh man,
the cats are oppressed. I'm saving the cats. I think it comes down to her as
if you
sort
have
of
one
this
maxim
Jesus
and you
complex,
always live
right?
by it, then you don't have to change it.
Yeah, she wants to be the savior figure. That's her
She's
thing.
the Jesus of cats.
In fact, I read
female Jesus of cats.
I was reading an article earlier
That's how
today
she sees
about how she. No, all of them essentially have been interviewed since this aired, and they're all outraged by it about how they're portrayed, which is hilarious. But I think out of all of them, she in particular would be the one who would say that she's outraged. But actually, whether or not she even realizes it, I think she loves it because this is great for her because she can say that she's being attacked. She's being unfairly
a narcissist
accused
loves
again.
the attention either way.
Well, it helps build her brand, and there's enough people who will. I haven't seen the whole thing. I don't know what the reality of her situation is, but she seems insane, and it seems like this will only help her brand and her image and reinforce whatever it is she does. Right? Oh, we lost Johnny.
Uh-oh.
Hello?
Oh,
there you
there.
go.
Yeah, she seems insane, but I don't know how she can act surprised that she's gonna try to take people who collect tigers, take their tigers away from them, and she's not going to run into trouble. Like, they'll be like, okay, it's not a reasonable group of people. You know?
That's true. That's a really good point. It's not like she's taking away people's harmonicas.
Right? Yeah, it's like it's
the kind of people like off the bat that just have exotic cats.
Yeah.
Aren't the kind of people that are just like, oh shucks.
Yeah, if the FBI showed up to my apartment tonight and said, "Yeah, we're taking your harmonicas," I'd say, maybe I'll write a blog post complaining.
Even if they
Whatever.
said, you know what, we're taking all your TVs, no Netflix for you during the quarantine, you'd be like, well, fuck that, and then you'd be like, all right, I guess I'm
you'd
gonna
be
go
like,
for a lot
you'd
of
be
walks.
like, you would say, I don't like it, and I'm gonna fight it, but here, take it. You wouldn't stand on top of your television with a gun and be like, my TV loves me. You can't have it.
Thomas Jefferson told me if they try to take my television, that be injustice.
That's any law that's injustice. You follow that bullshit. It's amazing.
Yeah, I like that guy the most.
Can you imagine
I think,
all
so
the
far.
people that he found that wouldn't
Didn't
talk
make the
on
cut.
camera or wouldn't talk
just didn't
to
make
him?
the cut because they were completely illegible.
Yeah.
Like, he probably filmed some people and then afterwards said, this is unusable material. There's nothing here that makes any sense.
So, Joe, did you get to the part where Carol tells the story of how she meets her husband? Because I think it's total bullshit.
Is that in episode 3?
Was that?
Yeah.
was
yeah,
that-
where she was like standing outside and like
with the gun on
outside
the
car.
gun on the car seat, and he drove around 3 times.
So hold on. I'm going to play it real
That's
quick. and
not a
just listen
story.
to-
That's just
listen-
psychosis.
Yeah, that's just
No. I have a whole theory based
somehow
on it.
getting around rape. I think I don't
All
know like what that is.
Don pulls around and he asked me if I would get in the car, and I told him no. Pulls around again. I think it was on the 3rd time he pulled around, and he had a gun sitting on the front seat of his car. And he said, you can hold this gun on me. I just need somebody to talk to. So I picked up the gun, held it on him. We drove around town and he talked.
That was her first date.
You know what
And,
the problem?
and you don't think she killed this guy? But the
That is
story
ironic,
starts,
yeah.
she said she got in a fight with her husband and she had to throw a potato at him to get out of the house, which just sounds like an absurd lie of a detail.
That was before getting into the car with that guy.
And then
Like,
she said she was just pacing the streets crying, and he stopped. And I was like, okay, maybe, but it sounds more likely like you were street walking for money. Maybe your abusive husband was making you like go out and sex work. Like, it just sounds like a sex worker thing.
Yeah, who knows?
And the
I
fact
doubt they're
that
being entirely truthful. in
if a
most of
guy
this.
says get in the car and point a gun at me, I just need someone to talk to. He was probably trying to bang
also
her.
not a story.
You know,
Like,
the problem with that is the age-old
But then-
problem with hitchhiking, that somebody who drives up to you, they're never going to drive up to somebody unless they think that they're crazier than you are. Nobody picks
Well,
up
that's
a
what I mean.
hitchhiker who
When-
they think, wow, that person looks crazier than I am.
Men
So
will
on the-
pick up
on the-
women, but women won't pick up a random man, for
Not
example.
unless they think that they look crazier than that man, which is pretty scary.
But it was the 3rd time he pulled around. He said, okay, how about this gun? So that means he had a gun the whole time.
Yeah.
And he had a wife and kids, this guy, and he
And
was a
airplanes,
millionaire. Yeah, he was
tigers.
a millionaire. He had a successful business, and he found some like 20-year-old cat lady on the side of the road and was like, "You're exciting to point a gun at me. Let's run away together. I'm going to throw my life away to have cats with you." Like, of course, she killed him. I think personally.
You think so? You think she killed him? What do you think? I'm not
I think
interested in that. I'm interested in
he-
what you think she did with the body.
Yeah.
Oh,
I like the meat grinder tiger food version.
yeah. Why wouldn't you feed it to a tiger? Their stomach does dissolve. Their stomach acid can dissolve bone. Like
It is.
why-
It is a perfect crime almost.
And she set up that whole like,
Minus
oh, he
the
was
Netflix
flying
documentary.
planes all the time illegally, so his plane probably crashed.
Isn't there
or
like a
she was
record
just
of
like,
planes?
who knows what he was doing?
Not when
No,
it's
I think
illegal.
she was trying to intimate that, like, well, who knows what he was doing? Like, maybe he landed somewhere
Because he
like,
had a family in Costa Rica,
Or
too.
maybe he
Or
was in
girlfriend.
trouble with other people, but like just the way she said
And
it.
she tries
my
to
first thought
say
was
that-
like, yeah, you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she tries to be like, well, we think he might have had Alzheimer's and he flew his plane a lot illegally. The reason she said that is because that way you don't know if there's a flight plan or not. Well, he might have just taken a plane out and not told anybody. And because
Right. You're supposed to make a flight plan, but if you don't, I guess the plane still takes off.
But
You
also,
still
like,
put keys in. And
Yeah.
it was so weird. The plane, like his car was left running on the runway where his plane was, and it's like you're
Oh
going to
yeah, his
disappear
van with his briefcase in it.
Yeah, like what you would
That
cover
seems
your
like a
tracks a
sketchy,
little bit
weird
better
detail.
if you're going to try.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have taken his money with him. He just let her have it all. Like it didn't really make any sense.
Well,
So-
and did you see when she rewrote the will or power of attorney or whatever, and it said like in the case of my unlikely disappearance, and the attorney or whatever said, yeah, in my
I've
38
never seen that in a will. Yeah.
First off, can we talk about that attorney?
I like.
Oh,
that
he's
guy.
amazing. I would hire him.
I just
For my
want a picture
Tiger
of
Law?
that guy like up in my kitchen or something.
I'm not saying that. Yeah, he's such a good just whatever.
But he's
attorney.
almost like, you're not real, you're a character.
Yeah.
But then I think these are all real people.
I don't
who
think
are-
it's real. I
That's
think-
why I think it's like The Office. It's like they're being characters of themselves because they're on a documentary.
I'm going to say
No,
something very
I don't think so.
controversial. I don't think it's real at all. I think the whole thing's a hoax.
I think
no, I think it's unfortunately too real.
That's why I think it's fake.
well, it has that hyper real feel, but I think it's like The Office. Like
It's a lot like The Office because
It's
he's
if The
very
Office
Michael
were real.
Scott
The
in
Office
a
is not
certain
real.
way that he thinks this attention is a good thing. He doesn't realize why it's engaged, why they're filming it. Like he
well,
thinks
Michael
of course
Scott was
people.
like,
Yeah,
on
Michael
his-
Michael
Scott's-
Scott
I think-
was the same way though. He thought like
He doesn't
I'm a
care why
great
they're
boss.
filming.
People want to
Yeah.
see this. He didn't realize I'm a caricature of a human, and that's why this is entertaining.
He thought of himself as an entertainer that's getting attention.
he doesn't realize that the joke's
Right.
on him. That's always the thing
Yeah.
that people
Yes.
say about
Or-
working
or
in offices.
doesn't
if,
care.
If you work in an office and you don't think that there's a Michael Scott in your office,
You're it.
You might be a Michael Scott. That's
There's
the
a
trick.
Michael Scott in every job I've ever.
That's
had.
what I mean.
Yeah.
There's always a Michael Scott, and if you don't
I
think there's
even,
one,
including jobs I've had with 4 employees, counting me.
By the way,
There's
Johnny, on a
still
walk
Michael
yesterday,
Scott.
we decided next episode we got to do like all things old jobs that we had.
yeah,
We'll
Oh,
use
yeah,
the
I'm
same
down.
Luke Skywalker coded language to get around
Yeah.
any personal
Oh no, I
details.
don't care. I've never signed an NDA. I'll throw these people under the bus.
Okay, yeah.
Fuck
either way,
you, Bill
that's, you do
McAdoo.
you. I'll do Skywalker
Yeah.
yeah.
because I'll talk about my current jobs too,
Don't do
all
that.
of which I love.
That's a terrible idea.
But yeah,
take,
so
take our job advice. Don't do that.
so
I mean,
so
I'm
you,
unemployed.
you start off
Exactly.
thinking you start off thinking Carol is the good guy, and then you realize she's at least as crazy as them, and her sub of a husband is
fucking
painful to watch.
Oh,
Her
that guy!
current
Did you see
husband?
the picture of him in the leash in the leopard
Yeah.
print?
Wait,
Oh, so
they
she-
do leash things where she has him on a leash?
What do you think
Yeah.
the answer to that question is, Luke?
Because we have our friend Luke Skywalker,
Yeah.
and we've also suspected that he potentially has been put on a leash, like literally.
Are you talking about Luke Skywalker?
Yeah.
I don't
he-
actually know who you're talking about. You'll have to tell me after the cast.
Luke's.
Well,
It's Luke
Is he the one married to Carole Baskin?
yeah.
Oh, definitely.
I remember one time at a bar, Joe, you were like, what do you think right now is the probability that our friend, we're calling, by the way, if you'll know this after an episode that comes out soon, but
we
whenever
ever
you want to
release that?
refer to someone without divulging the details, just call him Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, call everybody in the story Luke Skywalker, and it actually to the people
The
who know the
story
story
still
it makes
comes
sense.
across.
Unless you need to throw in like a Carole Baskin.
Yeah. Sometimes
For-
you need
for
to change
reference,
the name.
yeah.
But anyway,
She's a good placeholder.
Yeah.
Joe asked me at some point, I forget
Yeah.
where, but you were like, what's the probability like right now if we were to just like get a magic genie view of these old friends of ours life that Luke Skywalker's crawling around on the floor of their house in a leash while Carol says like, come here, you stupid dog, eat your
Yeah.
food. And I said, what did I say?
But so
20%?
hold on.
You said
I want to get back to the Carole Baskin of reality.
Describe
talking
her in
about-
3 words.
I was talking crazy cat lady. I was talking to my
There you
sister,
go.
and
pretty
she's
good, actually.
she's my sister turned me on to this show, and it's just it's ruined for her by the response of the public. She's just like, it's disgusting. Like no one cares about the cats. Everyone's just like, LOL, Joe Exotic, he's hilarious.
That's true. I would
And-
agree with that.
And
in
she also made a great point. She's like, I don't like any of them. She's like, Carole Baskin is a nut job, just like the rest of them. She goes, but the amount of hate she's getting versus the mix of hate and love that Joe Exotic gets, she said, like, it's just like in America, like people are just ready to like smash a woman for being a crazy bitch, even if she is.
Yeah, but
without,
that's
like,
because
any
Joe Exotic
redeeming.
is entertaining. Carole Baskin's is not.
Yeah, 'cause she's saying shame on you.
Yeah, Joe Exotic
and
is
Joe
a performer.
Exotic's not. Yeah,
He's, well,
that's
no,
a good
he's,
point.
he's actually an entertainer. That's his thing. He does magic shows. He does like that's what he did all throughout his career. He put on shows and shit.
Another difference is that he defined himself by what he loves, and she defined herself by what she's against and what she hates. Like
that's an
she's like,
interesting
I'm
point.
anti this
Yeah.
whole like exotic cat owner thing.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, she was one, but like he was just, at least he seemed to be connected to something deeper inside himself, whether he understood it or not. Like he had deeper reasons for why he was into cats and what he was doing.
I don't know. I mean, I think
he couldn't always express it properly.
I think they all might initially to some extent. I think some people, though, you're right, maybe less than others. Like Doc strikes me as somebody who goes into it looking to manipulate. I guess maybe Carole too, but
so can I play a quick Doc clip for you? I got queued up.
Yeah, Doc is.
This is the guy was trying, like, they
we
were
never
talking
said why
about
he's
all
a
her.
doc either.
He's a doctor of the mystic arts or something.
Mystic studies or some
Mystic
shit.
mystical medicine.
Who gives
Is it
that
mystical
title?
medicine?
I think so.
Is there an accredited agency that gives that title?
I think it's
Luke,
a
again.
course online.
Yeah,
I don't
Luke,
know.
again.
Can you send me the link?
No, I don't know.
What do you think the answer to these questions are?
Lionology. I don't know.
I would love to put that in my bio.
Go ahead. You can.
So I'm gonna play. I'm gonna
That's
play
the
this.
beauty.
Add it to your LinkedIn now. Do it on. You can do it on your phone.
So the documentarian was kind of trying to ask him about, because he even says, it's a 24/7 job. If you come work at his zoo, you live there, and it's your life. It's a lifestyle. There's no days off. There's no time off. There's no breaks. There's no nothing. And so the guy tries to ask him about it, and his response is just a little, like, you could tell he's whatever here.
Us to have a job where you can't take any time off, because people do have lives and they do have families outside of creating.
You're leading me down a road where people are just going to say you have to join a fucking cult to be a tiger trainer. Promise you. Been here 35 years. Heard it all forever.
But it is a
doesn't
sex
refute
cult.
it.
Yeah, it's not a.
But that's where the director in him comes out, and he's like, a fucking sex cult. Like, he did not think that take was going to make it to air. You could tell he probably went, try that again, ask me again in a different way.
Yeah,
and that's just the take. They definitely let him think he was directing the interview. Yeah, sure, we'll do another take. We won't use that one. And a good documentarian is like, yeah, no, we're totally going to use it.
Yeah, a good documentarian is a lot of the stuff that you think is just throwaway is the stuff that's going to make it in.
I don't think there'll be a season 2.
Which is
because
what.
of it.
No, I don't think so.
Obviously, The
there
Office
might.
is fake, but that's what that is all about.
Yeah.
Is
the in-between moments.
in Ricky Gervais's character, he thought this would make him look like what he thought he was in his own head, like this brilliant boss who was respected and whatnot. Yeah. Meanwhile, it didn't take much editing at all to make him look like the fool who's disrespected, you know?
But the question is that the fool who he actually is?
It's such a brilliant format, though, is like when you put a camera in front of people, they think I'm being filmed because I'm important, and they put on this act, and then, I don't know, it's just so obvious that they're not interesting. They're like,
yeah, but how many people watch reality TV and they think it's real? I can't believe that girl won The Bachelor.
Well,
no, they all worked this out beforehand.
Isn't watching something like Joe Exotic way more interesting than The Bachelor for that reason? Because you at least get this feeling like I'm seeing psychosis filmed. Whereas with The Bachelor, I'm seeing the psychosis of the audience reflected in what the show is. Like the fact that people watch this and think it's real is psychotic. Whereas with the Joe Tiger thing, what's the name of the show?
Tiger.
Joe Tiger.
Joe Tiger. You got it.
Yeah, Joe Tiger. With the Joe Tiger thing, you're
thinking of Joe.
You're thinking
Camel,
I'm sane. I'm just coronavirus at home, and that guy's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But
that's
real,
the only thing I liked about the show is the fact that I felt better about myself.
I think that's the idea.
It's great for that too. But it's real in that those tigers are really there. You know,
that's true.
It's true. That's the whole element of the show.
Those are not
Joe
CGI
Exotic
tigers.
he's in prison right now.
Right.
He's serving a 22-year prison sentence right now for supposedly hiring a hitman on Carole Baskin and also for selling cubs illegally to pay. He supposedly sold cubs to get the money. He was going to pay a hitman $5,000 to murder her and then $5,000 after it's done, but he could only get $3,000 together. What kind of quality hitman are you getting for $3,000?
Right.
You know, that's like a shitty. That's like a shitty Honda Civic. You
points
know,
right to you.
Yeah. That's like a 10-year-old car price.
Didn't he
You're gonna
do
murder
something
somebody
that caused her to sue him, and he lost almost all his money because of that?
Yeah, he threatened to kill her a bunch of times.
He's made that very clear, like actual death threats. One of my favorite lines in the entire series so far is when he says on his show to send her snakes, and then she says, I opened my mailbox and it just exploded with snakes, which was there's so many lines like that in this show that I've never heard. You know, you hear lines like, oh yeah, the cows are, ripe for slaughter. That's a line that you might have heard dozens
Once.
of times, however many times. I've never heard the line, yeah, so I went to open my mailbox and it just exploded with snakes.
My dad used to sell
It's beautiful.
sports equipment for his old business, and my uncle used to work for him, and my uncle was organizing some boxes in the back, and he was moving these arrows, like like the tip of the part of the arrow, the knock of the arrow.
The knock is the part that goes on the string.
Yeah.
Arrowhead?
Yeah. So he was moving a box of those and like went, and it smelled weird. And he goes, these arrow knocks smell like throw up. And then he paused and said, I don't think anyone's ever said that sentence before.
I disagree.
There were like a lot of those. I don't think anyone's ever uttered those words from Joe Tiger.
No, there were a lot of battles throughout history where people were throwing up on their arrows.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, but they didn't call him arrow knocks. They called him like whatever they spoke.
Or
in
what
those-
if you ate
or
poison?
Nocta,
yeah.
And if you ate poison and had to induce vomiting, you're not going to use the other side of the arrow. You're going to use
That's
the end
true,
with the
yeah.
feathers on it.
That's a good point. Yeah, but there are, to your point, there are so many of those lines where
Here's one.
There's a war in America that's being fought for an enormous amount of money. The animal rights activists, they want the lion's share, and they don't want to share their lions. So I'm Dr. Bhagavan Antle, Bhagavan, Antle, Antle, Dr. Bhagavan Antle. I am the director of the Myrtle Beach Safari.
That's that guy, Doc Antle.
But why did he have to spell his name? It's spelled exactly as I thought.
Because that guy's a scene man. He's in deep.
He really is. His thing is he finds young impressionable virgins.
Yeah,
who
like
are
17-year-olds.
who are obsessed with the tigers, and they come and live on his on the grounds. And once he realizes they've been indoctrinated and they're all about the cat lifestyle and they want to be there, then he starts making them dress a certain way. And one of the ladies he interviews got implants, and she's like, I don't ever remember agreeing to it. They just made me an appointment, and I went and got implants. And he makes them change their names. Like he has this white lady named China.
Yeah.
Another one named like Rajni. Some Italian lady named Rajni.
Her original name was Renee. It's just they take their names and make it whatever that is.
Tigerify 'em.
Yeah, they tigerify them, exactly.
They tigerify them. And and the guy's just a total nut job.
What happens to him at the end? I really don't care about spoiling it. What's he up to by the end of it? Is he still mucking
Bhagavan,
about?
he was still operating. They raided his zoo, federal agents, in like December of 2019. So
wow.
If they found anything, you're going to see charges and stuff come out against him. But the federal government is going after all these people because it doesn't look good when, like, how are these people moving tigers, endangered species, across
Without
state
you
lines
knowing.
illegally and stuff? Yeah,
Yeah.
and talking about it on Netflix. So like the hammer's dropping on a bunch of them now.
Yeah, it makes the
When was
FBI
that-
look really bad that they kind of overlooked all of and
course.
all of this. Yeah.
The sheriff's department in Hillsborough County in Florida, where Baskin is, reopened the case on her husband
I was reading about that. Yeah.
because he's getting like 10 tips a day, but it's just from people watching and be like, based on the show, I think I know where he is.
But do you
It's
think
like,
there's
what?
Do you think there's any good tips that will come from this?
There might be some people that think they knew or had suspicions, but no one asked them.
Well, that was like the
Right,
the
and
yeah.
they
the
might
family
decide
of-
to call in now.
the family of Carole's husband who disappeared.
Right.
They said that this is the first time they've been talking out because they claim that she threatened to sue them if they because they
and
had
they get
interviewed for
I think they
something.
get a stipend from the trust or whatever that she controls.
That's
And,
crazy,
like,
dude.
And she said she'll just cut them off.
That's crazy.
And they need that to live, so they just
She's
not
so
gonna
Cersei
say anything.
Lannister.
Yeah,
She is very
Can we go
Cersei, but
into
with
the
cat
psychology
prints.
of this? Well, first off, like describe. I don't know if we've officially defined who she is, but she's like
Yeah, we have. I mean, tangentially, but I think you get the idea if you've been listening. Like she's
Carole?
yeah,
Absolutely.
she's like all of them. She's exploiting the situation
but
to her
weirdly
personal
she
gain.
sees herself as outside of this group she's in.
Right, she sees herself as the
different
savior.
from everyone else.
That's true. Yeah,
Like she's collecting cats to save them,
Yes.
not to collect them.
Yeah.
And she sees herself as better than all these other people.
Yeah, you're right.
Meanwhile, it's so clear from watching her for 5 minutes that she's doing it for the same exact psychotic, let's say exotic reasons that all the other
not.
people they interview are.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Because what's interesting is Joe Exotic says at points that he's learned a lot from people like Doc, and he's tried to build his brand based on what somebody like him does. So there's a lot more crossover there, whereas you're right, Carole Baskin is sort of taking an approach of, I am going to be the queen of the animal rights version of this insanity, this madness, and be on the top of not only that
she wants her
pyramid, but
cake and to
ultimately
eat it too. That old saying.
It really is.
She
wants
wants her big
tigers
cats, and she doesn't want anyone else to have them.
You know
And
that
Joe
old
Exotic
saying,
has
I
said
want
that.
my tigers and I want my animal rights activist credit too.
I want my tigers and I want to lick them too.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, she probably has licked those tigers.
I think she said she does.
Ugh. Because there are ladies that lick their cats.
You believe me. Just it's so believable at this point. I like the guy who eats the expired meat off the meat truck.
He seems pretty cool. He's the guy who found the job on Craigslist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the guy with no legs who
can I play that guy? That guy's actually my favorite because he was head zookeeper for like 14 years or something.
He has no legs.
And they say that too about Joe. Like you have to find people who are desperate. They say in one of the episodes that he would find people that were like ex-cons or basically homeless because if it was enough for them, he'd give them a trailer to live in and like $100 a week, and they could get expired Walmart meat. So if
their life was immediately better than what it was under
because they were homeless before that. But
Yeah.
after 10 years of that, like how like he's totally exploiting these people. All right, legless guy, right? We're gonna do him now. Oh my god, I got to get a better soundboard. But
I work with a man that also has no legs.
A lot of people
Hold
think
on.
tigers took my legs.
That
that
was
lady
the person who has one arm, right?
That lady you just heard lost her arm by putting it in a tiger cage and was back at work 5 days later.
That's baller.
All right, here let's.
That's just
listen to
that's just dedication.
That's just
folks.
a fact. Take the fact.
It's
Power
that.
through.
The nutty part is she could have saved the arm. It was like it'll take too long. To get
Oh,
back
I
to
saw
those
that clip,
tigers.
dude.
Yeah, it was 2 years
She
of
was given an
reconstructive
option.
surgery.
She was
yeah.
like, "Oh, you can go through physical therapy and reconstructive surgery. It'll be like a whole process, or we could just amputate it." And she was like, "Yeah, that sounds easier."
She even says the arm was still working. They gave me a pen and I was able to write with it.
Yeah.
Which
So
means
it
she
just
would
hurt.
probably make a full recovery with
Because she
physical
had
therapy.
the nerve endings in your fingertips are, the fine motor skills. Like if she could still kind of write her name, with some therapy, it probably would have recovered. But I'm sure she didn't have any money for that.
I was going to say that
She didn't want to be in debt, and she
there's-
wanted to just get back to work.
Yeah, there's that aspect of it where maybe it was a money thing, but also I don't know how.
Maybe Joe
deeply-
Exotic agreed to pay for the amputation. Who
Yeah, but
knows?
there could have been
I
a
don't
weird.
know.
Also, there could have been a
We don't
weird
have all the
factor
facts,
of
folks.
like
The
she
real
wanted
question-
to have the credit of like I have no arm because I got it bit off by a tiger.
I'm
Now
not-
she
I'm-
has cred in the exotic cat.
I'm not willing to go that far, but I don't not believe it.
Yeah.
That's for damn
She
sure.
also might have just been like she says in this clip. She goes, "I work with a guy with no legs." She was just like, "Well, he's doing fine." So
He's head zookeeper.
He's
I
head
could be that one
zookeeper.
day if I lose my other arm.
yeah, if I lose another limb, I might move up. All right, but she's not the one we're talking about right now. Let's listen to this guy.
A lot of people think tigers took my legs. No, it actually happened from a zip line accident.
Right.
So me and Kara, I know it's mean or whatever if someone's suffering, but
Is
we
that
had to
your current
pause the
wife?
TV. Yeah, my current wife.
Oh, yeah.
We paused the TV and just cackled for like 2 minutes because the whole show they don't tell you in the first episode that how she lost her arm or how he lost his legs.
Right, yeah.
He's got these artificial legs, which first of all are covered in scary clown decals, which it's like, what the fuck? You work at a zoo and you have scary clown fake legs. Like,
Yeah,
but he
because I
seems so nice that I'm like, what is this guy's
I didn't.
deal?
I didn't realize that immediately because my first thought was, "Wow, that guy has insane leg tattoos." And
But
then
listen-
I realized a second later, "Oh, they're wooden." Like, they're
Listen
not
to his
real.
decision-making skills from ruining his legs in a zip line to like where he is in life now. It's all in the next like 40 seconds of this
These are
clip,
such
right?
good sentences.
It's all right, you guys.
I feel
ready?
so good about myself.
I'm doing great. I'm crushing it, dude.
Hey, there is a bit of that Jerry Springer effect. You're like, I've
Yeah.
made some bad decisions. I don't have the best credit score, but I'm
Yeah.
not living on expired Walmart meat in a
With ha-
trailer
with
With
half
one
my-
arm.
with half my
maybe
legs.
losing
door to
a
a
limb
guy
on
with
any
one
given
leg.
day.
No legs.
No legs.
Yeah, I get annoyed when I
Even
have
better?
a job where I can't take a day off like sick because I have a cold.
Yeah.
And it's like these people are losing limbs and they have to go back to work for $12 a day.
Yeah, it's
So-
it's like American Trailer Park Boys meets Jerry Springer. That's what this show is, right?
Meets Jurassic Park. Yeah.
Meets Jurassic Park. Yeah. Right.
All right, you ready?
It's the ultimate crossover. of trash.
All right, let's listen to Legless Jones over here.
I fell 50 feet and landed on my feet, crushed my feet, broke my hip, broke my back, tore all my insides up. I was paralyzed from the waist down, but I could move a big toe, and that's when I said, I can do this. So I took it on myself to learn how to walk.
All right, so just pause it right there. He took it on himself to learn how to walk. That makes me think he didn't, consult any sort of physicians or physical therapists. He just decided, my insides are all busted up, but they seem to have settled a little. So I can wiggle a toe, even though they told me.
Does that mean after he got home from the ER and got referred to like neurologists, he didn't go?
I don't know. I think he got diagnosed with some kind of paralysis, and he was like, "No, I'm going to just start walking again." And then here's the rest of the clip.
Usually you build up muscles. You build up calves. You build up your heel, your ankle. Well, I couldn't build all that up. So I was literally walking on bone. I bet I walked 20 miles a day at this.
Oh, God.
12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Good boy. Over time, from walking on them, I just ended up losing my feet.
Okay, that's the one thing feet are for. All right, from walking on them, you should not lose your feet from walking on them. Okay,
what does that mean? Though?
Over time, I just eventually lost.
It wasn't the zoo's fault.
You didn't lose them.
They didn't just fall off, and he's like, "I guess they disappeared." I woke up.
I woke up. Feet were gone.
I woke up Tuesday, and they were just weren't there.
I woke up to potato feet. And that was it.
Yeah, I was
oh my God, he did. If he's working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. Like, there's no way you can build muscle that rate. You're just going to be wearing it down until it's bone. Like, even a healthy person who didn't fall 50 feet from a zip line, that's too much strain on your joints and your meniscuses and your tendons and all that. But here, wait, there's like 10 seconds left.
Up losing my feet. It wasn't the zoo's fault. I mean, it was all my fault. Now I just got these cool looking legs.
Wait, why would it be the zoo's fault if he had a ziplining accident?
No, because people would say, he should have gotten time off or something.
Yeah, he got to a point in his life where he should have been like, my feet are starting to really hurt. I'm getting worse than better now. I should find a lifestyle where I could get healthy. Instead, he was like, I'm just going to do as much tiger shit as I can until I lose my feet. And then I'll get some badass fake ones so I can still be around the tigers.
I get the logic.
Like, it's an obsession
it's sort of like,
from these people.
My legs were injured. If I just try to do some tiger shit, maybe they'll heal.
And if not, I get awesome wooden ones.
Well, then I get cred for like being a badass tiger guy.
Well, because people definitely assume, like he said, when he's in the park, oh, this guy's fucked with
I think
tigers,
it's like a small world filled with a lot of cred.
Yeah, he
like,
probably
I think
gets
that
extra
girl
cred.
wanted to have one arm. Like part of her was
I bet
if I have one arm, I get cred.
Maybe.
I bet that's one of the few places where amputees are like not exhorted or exalted, but yeah, let's say exalted. If you work in a machine shop and you're missing an arm, people are going to be like, this probably isn't a great shop. But for some reason, it's that craziness
right.
of the tiger.
There's nothing exotic about missing an arm in like a machine shop.
Yeah,
you're like, oh, so safety protocols.
I know what
here
happened
are not
here.
Missing an arm from tigers is more of the vibe of
there's a story.
You were in there with the monsters of nature.
You earned your stripes.
Yeah, as opposed to a machine shop.
There you go, Tom. That's good.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, that legless guy. But think about it. If you have 2 less legs, think about how many less calories of
fewer
expired Walmart meat you need.
That's true. He should have eaten them. He might have actually. Do you think he ate his own legs?
No.
You don't think he ate his feet?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure you don't think that?
I think if they turned into potatoes,
ended up.
maybe.
No, I think they ended up in the
quick.
They ended up in the garbage can with the Walmart meat. I'm pretty sure.
Oh God, oof. That's rough.
So Johnny, if I were to ask you for like a like give us the moral of the story type of thing, what would you say it is for this? Feel free to play a clip if you have one that helps you answer that question.
There's probably plenty of clips that tell morals.
I do actually. I have 2 clips that I want to play that I think sum up the whole moral of the show. So here's the first one. This is Joe Exotic calling from prison because he's in federal prison doing a 22-year prison sentence, and he's like 57. So he's pretty much done. He's also filed a $94 million lawsuit from jail.
I love these lawsuits that are like $80 trillion. It's like, I'll settle for $20 million.
Part of his argument is because he lost 18 years of research of his tigers when they took them away from him.
Yeah, that's what he lost.
If you saw the show, I don't know what you would call research.
Johnny, what was his age when he went into prison?
It was recent, right?
It just happened. He just went in like January. He just finally.
So he won't
this
get
is all
out
very
until
new.
he's almost 70-something. 8 or whatever.
He'd be nearly 80, and
Yeah.
and like you said, he did meth. He
79
fell off.
could
He
be
drove
it.
off a bridge. Like he's not the healthiest guy. You could just tell by he's been living on expired meats for who knows how long. And I just the fumes of that tiger shit can't be good for you long term. But here's the first clip.
I'm telling you, man, it's worse than what you can ever treat an animal. I'm being treated like that in here.
So
Are the animals happy?
I don't know if you could hear him, but he says it's worse than however you could treat an animal is how they're treating me in here. And it's like, I'm pretty sure you have food, water, shelter, and socializing, probably a social worker, a caseworker, a psychologist, someone to talk to in jail, like for your case. But
Also,
the fact that he would make that comparison, someone who kept thousands of wild animals, not just wild animals, like it's cruel to keep like a cow in a cage, and they pretty much go from the barn to the field back to the barn, and it's still they can suffer just from being stuck in a small cage. So a tiger, which is used to like 100-acre range or whatever, it's crazy. No, it's like 400 square miles or something.
And
the average
freedom
tiger,
to
because they're
sort of
predators.
choose where to go when it wants to go there and follow its instinct.
They're predators. Imagine if you treated a cat like some people treat their dogs, where every time you come home, you leave the house, it goes into a cage. Like that cat's going to go nuts and try to scratch your face off of it. So the fact that he compares it to that, when he picked an animal that you can't keep in a cage, like you keep a fish in a tank, they don't mind. Like you feed them, they swim around. But yeah, to keep big tigers. And then there's one other clip. This is the very last clip, or one of the last clips of the last episode. And to me, it's the most poignant one. This is before he went to jail, but kind of after he loses control of the park. Because that happened before he got arrested. He fucked it up. He owed Carole Baskin so much money, he signed the park over to this buddy of his, this guy.
So he lost a lawsuit
investor.
from her or something? That's why he owed
And
her?
there's a judgment against him. So she was going to, if he couldn't make payments, then they could seize the park and liquidate it. So he was struggling to make payments. So he wrote the park off to somebody else, so there are no assets in her name to go over. And then as soon as that guy got charged, he was like, oh, I don't need you, Joe. you know? And if you watch the rest of the series, he may or may not have helped frame Joe Exotic and get him put in prison to have him out of the picture. But that's a whole different episode.
See, don't frame Joe Exotic, though, because 80-year-old Joe Exotic still comes out of prison and murders you.
I'm
in
scared
an
comes
exotic
out
way.
raring to go.
in an exotic way that only Joe Exotic can do. Yeah,
Unless he gets corona.
he might get. He might get.
He is actually in isolation for quarantine because Corona is in the facility he's in.
Oh,
and
wow,
he's a
really?
new inmate, so he got isolated.
Well, he's also
so he probably
now
is
a high profile inmate now, right? He's
Right,
probably
but
one of
he's
those guys who can get special treatment now.
Like the Martha
they don't really have
treatment.
Netflix
or
in jail,
Bernie
so
Madoff or
Sanders.
I don't know if the
Wow.
other prisoners will know much about him though, because like they don't have Netflix in prison. I don't think
they don't.
They probably have one Netflix movie a week.
Do they have computers in prison? Do you get like a laptop?
You probably get an internet
They
cafe.
get standard issue Chromebooks.
Do they?
Yeah.
No, he's making
Cell
that up.
phones are like very valuable in jail.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's iPads.
Oh, you're talking about a public school. Same thing.
Same thing. All right, you guys ready? So this is him.
Play us
this
your
is him-
moral of exotic tiger.
And I think this is a best. They use this clip specifically because it's about his chimps.
I don't
think
feel good.
because they're more human like. Okay, I'll just play the clip.
Who the hell knows? I finally moved my 2 chimpanzees last week. Probably one of the hardest days of my life. They sit in cages next to each other for over 10 years. And we moved them to the Great Ape Senior in Florida. And in 2 days, they were out in a big yard hugging on each other. Did I deprive them of that for 10 years? Yep. I deprived them of being chimpanzees.
That's Joe Exotic?
That was Joe Exotic showing remorse. I think that was during like when he had to liquidate part of the park and he knew it was out of his control and stuff.
You got to
but,
let chimps
yeah.
be chimps, bro.
Like,
Just
can you
let
imagine
chimps
these
be
two
chimps.
chimps? They were in cages.
He's a chimp off
next
the
to
old
each
block.
other.
I got to give him
So
credit.
chimps are social animals, so they were able to socialize, but they could never like hold each other or touch each other the way. And chimps are a lot like people in their emotions and stuff. So the fact that within a couple of days of being in a big open shared space, they're just like hugging and loving on each other. Like, yeah, Joe kind of realized he's a piece of shit. But then I played that clip just before. He goes, what they're doing to me in here is worse than you could ever do to an animal. And
Right,
it's like,
because
well,
he's
no, because
human.
yeah, chimps are pretty close, though.
Honestly, though,
I agree.
I agree with Johnny. All it does is show his short-sighted, like,
Yeah.
psychoticness.
If anybody doesn't believe that monkeys are people too, I think we should include that spy monkey clip YouTube video in the description.
Right.
Because that shows that
There are a bunch of those spy monkey videos.
Oh my God.
where-
Animals are just
Describe
people.
the spy monkey thing.
Basically, they make an animal that looks like whatever animal they want to observe.
Usually
little,
monkeys.
Yeah, a little animatronic thing. They do it with wild dogs and all sorts of things, but mostly
They did it with a
different-
gorilla once. They
yeah,
made
mostly
a
different types of monkeys
small
or
baby
primates or whatever.
gorilla.
And they put a camera in the eye, and you watch these fucking monkeys try to interact with what they think is either because it can't quite move, maybe an injured baby monkey or just a different type of baby monkey. And the way that they interact with each other and the way that they try to interact with this thing, it's like watching people. It's really it will strike you if you've never
Especially
seen it.
the one
It's
they
wild.
show. I forgot the type of monkey, but the monkeys basically accept the thing into the tribe.
Yeah.
And then
They decide it's not a threat and it's something that we can maybe nurture.
But I'm talking about the one where they have like a funeral service.
Oh, because it falls over.
It
and
falls
it can't get
over
back
and
up.
it can't get back up, and they just assume it's dead. And
They
they
assume
have
it's
a
dead.
weird, almost like ceremonial moment.
Yeah, well, they bring monkeys. Monkeys bring their children monkeys over to stand over it, and they hug each other as they stand over it. It's fucking insane.
Honestly, I thought I was watching like
it's
the
just
end
people,
of a
dude.
war movie of humans.
It's just people. They're just people. It's crazy.
They're
man.
not just people, but
They're
they're
basically
very
people.
close to people.
They're basically people.
And if you're someone that's comfortable keeping monkeys in a cage and getting
Well, it depends what you're keeping them for. If they're just there because they're part of your menagerie, you're a piece of shit. If you're doing conservation or research, like unfortunately part of them being so similar to us in personality, it's because their physiology is so similar.
Yeah,
So
they're
for,
getting
like,
COVID
Of course.
hard right
I mean,
now.
like
for
they're being
research and
used-
stuff,
yeah.
like the polio vaccine was perfected on monkeys. Like that's how Salk
Yeah.
was able to roll
They're
it out.
learning
If
a
he
lot
didn't-
about the coronavirus
Hey, you
from
think
monkeys.
You think monkeys
Yeah.
aren't smart? Monkeys made into space before we did.
Well, that's
true.
Philosophically.
Imagine if the aliens show up and they're like, technically our bylaws go by the first species in space are the ones who run the planet. So it turns out you guys
it's a
sent some,
non-negotiable bylaw.
Yeah, that's how Planet of the
It's
Apes
like-
actually happens.
yeah,
the aliens
you guys
come to
sent a
enforce
monkey up.
monkey law.
Monkeys.
Yeah,
and then they go, wait, actually the Russians sent a dog up first. It's like, oh, all right, so dogs are in charge now.
Yeah,
We'd be
kill
like,
all the
"Phew,
monkeys."
Thank God.
yeah.
No, that would be better. Like, I'd much rather a dog over any primate, even humans in charge, wouldn't you?
I would much rather trust dogs because we've been much better to dogs than
I
we
think
have
it
to
goes
monkeys.
dogs, Westworld hosts, monkeys, humans of
We
people
have
I
to
would
do a
want to run
Westworld
the
episode
planet.
soon.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
do it right
Westworld.
after this. I just finished the first season.
I gotta finish Tiger King.
Philosophically, it's the same as like what Joe Exotic would do to monkeys or tigers is purely for his own weird ego satisfaction.
Right.
Whereas like if you're researching on monkeys, you have more of a consequentialism, like I'm trying to get better consequences for humans. So let's say
And
you're
there's
studying
actually-
coronavirus.
there's
you're
actually
trying to
rules
cure
that-
it, you know?
There's rules that govern those guys. Like if a monkey dies unexpectedly, like the government looks into it and it's a whole investigation.
Yeah.
Whereas they found like 5 tiger corpses buried at Joe's place, and he was like, "Yeah, I euthanize some tigers. You got a sick tiger, you got to shoot it." I was like, "Yeah, you can't though. They're an endangered species. You can't
Well,
just you're not a doctor or a veterinarian.
Well, that's the
You can't just be
ironic
like that tiger's sick. I'm going to put him down. 'cause
That's
I don't
the
have enough
ironic
Walmart
thing.
meat."
That's the ironic thing is that they're always trying to discredit the other one for the same
Right.
thing. Joe Exotic tries to go and gets films and says, "Where are the other tigers? They're definitely euthanizing tigers here." And she says he's definitely euthanizing tigers. Meanwhile, they're all killing tigers. Clearly,
They're all
'cause you're
killing
right.
tigers.
In order to run these organizations that they're running, where are the tigers going? You have to do something with them. It's just a practical consequence of what they're doing.
I didn't know until before this documentary that tigers are like, if you train them and socialize them, they could be really manageable for the first like year, pretty much.
Yeah,
Or I
that's
think
what
year
it
and a
seems
half.
like. Yeah,
And then after that, like their version of puberty kicks in because they're fucking predators.
Yeah.
So they want to hunt and kill and tear things up and stalk. Like these are their evolutionary drives that are kicking in at a certain age.
They're supposed to like
and once they get to that point,
carcasses and rip it apart.
Yeah, but once you get to that point, you can't use them anymore for pettings or shows, or they're just in the cage and they roar at people and you can throw meat to them. But I don't need 200 of those. I have 12 big ones. So
you only need 2
what do you
big
do?
ones.
You sell them.
Yeah.
You sell them to drug dealers. I just assume that's the big market.
This is
You
why
sell them
people
to
made
fucking
cats.
maniacs.
Yeah.
And then you sell them off to whoever. Maybe somebody just wants a tiger rug. So I'll buy the tiger from you alive, kill it, and then or maybe it's a weird sex things like I don't know. I assume
like that.
I assume there's all sorts of weird bones and things in Asia get ground up for virility. I'm sure tiger bones and tiger penis. I'm sure there's a market
tiger fangs and shit.
For
Ground
up tiger fangs, snorting tiger,
especially the fangs.
fang
That's like
powder.
their source of power, right?
Yeah, that's definitely like a weird Chinese
herbal medicine thing. Yeah. So there's definitely a horrifying secondary market for these big cats.
So when you played that clip, Johnny, where like Joe Exotic was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going through like the same torture in prison." Here's how it's way different. He's a human being who can be told you're in prison for this reason with this like framing. Like we can tell you where you are and what's happening. You cannot tell a tiger, hey, you're meant for this type of environmental setting. You evolved millions of years to be like this. Now you have to be in this weird environment where you'll get some simulation of what it's like to like pounce on a thing of meat and eat it and get the little hit of like
there's
dopamine or whatever. But you're actually in Florida. It's like, no, they don't know words.
Or Florida.
You're totally right. There's I think it's called stereopathy. I'm trying to remember the word, but I looked it up. And it's if you look in any of the clips of the tigers, it shows them stalking back and forth along the edge of the enclosure, and you'll see there's a path worn in the grass, and that's a thing that happens to animals when they're put in an enclosure that's too small, or any kind of enclosure really, is they start walking the perimeter almost obsessively.
Yeah.
Because it's just kind of a mental map. They're used to, like you said, a huge range of like a whole fucking jungle.
They
or
walk like
forest
a
or
5
whatever.
square mile range, and like that's their territory.
It's way bigger than that. They'll do that like in a day, maybe. And so for them to just be stuck in a 500 square foot space, they're just going to pace it constantly.
It's like you being in a tiny like
out.
prison cell, and you got kind of like lose your mind in there.
Yeah, it is great poetic justice though that he's going to spend the rest of his life in a cage after what he chose to do with his life. He could have done whatever. You know what I mean?
It's the universe being brilliantly like more,
and it rarely
poetic
does that.
than a poet.
Yeah. And it's supposed to do that to us and give us what we deserve, and it doesn't. Like, what if Carole Baskin did kill her husband and she just gets to hang out with big cats like she wants?
Dude, speaking of,
I also read a really creepy blog post from her after this came out, and her husband posted something, and it was like, there's no way she could have killed her husband. In the 15 years we've been together, we've never even had one word of disagreement or an argument between us, which is such an unhealthy relationship. You've never had a disagreement in over a decade.
That means one person is dominating.
Yeah, and it's obvious who it is. But,
obviously, yeah. It's the woman who has a bunch of tigers.
Do you guys want masks?
No, I'm good.
Oh.
I got the N95, actually.
Is it a tiger mask? Is it made out of steak?
Yeah, it's a tiger mask. No, my friend makes
we pretty
COVID
much cover
masks and drop them off outside.
Johnny, did
I got
you
a
catch the part?
COVID
Back
mask.
to the quarantine.
You were just talking about how she noticed that you were talking about how cats like will walk around like the territory of their cage. When she was talking about how she met her husband that she may or may not have murdered, she was like, yeah, we met because I was pacing on the side of the road and he picked me up. And she said, I'm kind of like a big cat. I like to pace when I feel stressed out. It's like, no, you were not in a cage. You were on planet Earth. Your cage was planet Earth.
Earth is a cage, man.
She's just Marine Ponderosa.
Yeah.
She's a mixture of Marine Ponderosa and what do you call it?
Elton John.
I mean, she's just got the
I was going to say Darth Vader, but
she's got the righteousness of like a
Darth
social
Vader, yeah.
justice warrior of like, I get to feel good because I've defined what I'm doing as righteous.
Well,
it's like there's no evidence that what you're doing is more righteous or less fueled by like resentful, negative energy. You know, like it's clear that what you're doing is
it's clear that what she's doing
feeding
is
the dark parts of your soul and not something truthful and higher and transcendent.
It's clouded by the narcissism. It's clouded by the idea
it's so clearly about her and not about the larger cause.
Well, I mean, can it be about both though? Why do they have to be mutually
Humans
exclusive?
are complicated. We can have mixed. We're a mixed bag.
I think that's one of, if you can take
that's
a
what
positive,
sucks about us.
Well, if you can take a positive takeaway from the series,
she thought
Tiger
she was
King,
genuinely doing good. I got that impression.
That's what I said at the beginning. I think they all think that they are the tragic heroes of this story, and they all genuinely think that the other one, who thinks that they are the tragic hero of the story, is the villain.
You can't be a hero without a villain, right?
Well, it helps to have one.
Certainly helps.
Yeah.
But
they're all just fucking insane. But aren't we all insane in our own way?
Yeah, but like I think there's a way to curb that, which is like don't actually think you're the hero. Think that you could be a hero of a story.
I think that's
not the hero of the story.
I think that's why the cliche is true. Oh, the actual heroes, right? They're the people, the nurses and people right now, working on the front lines of, COVID. It's like, well, but it's true. It's like those people aren't, posting stuff where it's like they have a mass following of, tens of thousands of people.
They're just showing up to work.
They're just going to work and they want to help people, right?
Me and my brother got into like a drunken argument with my parents on Christmas about like what is a hero. And like,
oh, how'd that go?
Me and my brother Eric were like saying like, well, I think a hero is pretty much anybody who shows up with, like, for example, like if you're a nurse and this thing hits and you could quit and just like, get unemployment and not show up to work, but you go, no, I have a duty to show up. I'm a nurse and I said I would do this job and I'm going to do this job when it's needed. Like that would be a heroic thing.
Right.
And my parents were like, no, that's not a hero. A hero is somebody who like, is in a war or something. I'm like, no, I think you can be a hero like every morning when you wake up, you can decide to be a piece of shit or to do the right thing.
Yeah. And
I would say it's heroic to choose good when you could have chosen bad.
It's just more visible in some situations than others. Yeah. And the difference is people who exploit it.
Well, what about a nurse who goes to work every day because they know, fuck, I won't get unemployment if I quit because the hospital will say, yeah, we didn't.
Well, yeah, there's shitty people in every profession. I mean, it's not to say that there's.
But they're still doing something heroic. Doesn't matter what their reasonings are. Like if a guy in a war murders a bunch of people to save his comrades, but he enjoyed it.
Well, this
does
is
that
why
make it less of a heroic thing.
Yes, I would say the more information you have, you want as much information as possible to determine if an act was heroic. But some acts are just so clearly heroic because you can't fathom any ulterior motive, and the motive that would be selfish is the opposite of what they did. So, for example, if a guy has a family and he sacrifices himself in a war to save another guy, and you can't, like, why would he do that? There's no, like, I get another exotic tiger, like, benefit out of this. That's heroic.
Way to stay on point, Luke.
Well, I just want to use tiger examples.
I think we're pretty much done here. I just have one last clip.
Let's wrap it up. This is brutal.
Okay. Ready?
I'm exhausted.
I'm exotic.
This is
exactly
Joe
my
Exotic.
point. Folks,
This is Joe Exotic explaining
Tommy's
himself to the people. This is an older clip. This one really isn't from the show. I found it online. And he ran for president in 2016. He got a little over 900 votes.
Joe Exotic?
Yep. That's probably where most people know him from. And I think that's partly why this series has done so well, is John Oliver covered him then. Because he was putting out daily political videos where he would just mention Carole Baskin being a fucking bitch while trying to run for president.
He read her journal on his little online TV show.
He did read his journal. But so he tried to run for president, but this was him trying to make a campaign ad. Listen to how well he stays on message, and maybe you'll get why I compared him to Trump. Oh, shit. I have it on mute. There we go.
He should let you know who I am. First thing is, I am not cutting my hair. I'm not changing the way I dress. I refuse to wear a suit. I am gay. I've had 2 boyfriends most of my life. I currently got legally married. Thank God. It's finally legal in America. I've had some kinky sex. I have tried drugs through the younger years of my life. I am broke as shit.
I have a judgment against me from some bitch down there in Florida, but I can tell you I paid a fine with the USDA, and that is nothing but a civil fine, ladies and gentlemen. That does not mean that I was accused or convicted of any kind of animal cruelty thing. I built one of the biggest facilities and the nicest facilities for exotic animals in this country as far as a private individual goes. I'm Joe Exotic, and don't forget, I am now stepping my foot in the ring to run for president.
So what strikes me about that is that he only made that to try and make his image better, and it does.
He doesn't mention any.
Sort.
There's no policies about being president or why he would be good for the job.
There's no context. It's like, what are you talking about? You
if
weren't
I didn't
accused
know
of
him,
yeah,
I
you
would
weren't
just think
accused
you're a
of
psycho.
animal cruelty. Where did that come into this equation? I don't know who you
why
are.
would you? Just so you all know, I'm running for president, and I am not a pedophile. It's like, what? Why would you even bring that up?
Exactly.
You know, it's one of those things.
I didn't even know you were a tiger owner. I just heard your ad right now.
I didn't even believe that you were a person.
Yeah.
And if you're starting off, already backpedaling the animal abuse allegations against you, and your one thing is the animal thing, it's like,
yeah.
But yeah, that so he got a little internet famous in the 2016 election as one of the crazy fringe candidates.
Almost got Trump's VP pick.
Almost. He was second after Pence.
Yeah.
Oh, he started posting videos
inside
to
information,
Trump.
folks. Did he?
There's some amazing videos where he's just pacing around a tiger enclosure and the tigers are watching him, and you're like, why isn't he doing this at a desk? Why right here where they can just decide, swipe, I'm going to eat you today? But he's just ranting about politicians and taxes. Now, the last question I asked, which I don't know enough about science to answer, is
that's such a Joe Exotic
I
thing
have two
to say.
armchairs right here. I know. Yeah. Lay it on me.
What? Because these people are kind, like Joe was saying, our Joe was saying. They kind of are all the same kind of crazy, even if they're so like Carole and Joe are such different. Joe Exotic are such different people, but they're the same brand of crazy. Crazy cat disease, toxoplasmosis? I don't know if we ever covered it on the cast, but
I think we've covered
crazy cat
it's an
lady
actual
disease.
The crazy cat lady idea that everyone knows what that means when you hear it. There's an actual parasite that can cause that behavior that lives in cats. And if you own more than a dozen cats and they're urinating around your house and stuff, there's statistically you're likely to have it or been exposed to it. And it causes just irrational, erratic behavior in humans. So I wonder if that bacteria or parasite or whatever it is can live in big cats, because that would explain so much. So
I wouldn't be surprised. I'm no scientist, but I would say the genetics pan out that it could.
And I think we're done here.
Did
folks.
I convince you?
All right.
No, I'm
Let's
not
wrap
done
it up.
because I asked Johnny what his moral of this whole series was, and you played a bunch of clips. I want to hear your moral.
He gave a doc answer where he said, "You're just trying to get me in 35 years. I've heard it all. I'm not a sex."
Yeah, you're trying to admit this is a fucking sex cult, and it is.
I want to hear what the Johnny Genie moral of the story is from watching Joe Tiger.
All right, I feel like I've given you a few already, but I guess the lasting one would have to be the fact that he is in jail. That's why this is his story and not just the story of the exotic tiger world, because Doc Antle is still out functioning. A bunch of his animals were in Hollywood movies, like Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Right.
Those are all his animals. Or no, like all the lemurs and tigers and like all the weird cats and things. Those are all his, and monkeys. He provided
so you
a lot
get
of
money
animals
from renting them out in those kind of situations
to Hollywood movies.
Yeah, sure.
You make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I think it's the irony and the justice of it that he did this for his own glory and fame, is to lock these animals up and mistreat them. And he totally lost sight of why he did it. I think he might have started it because he cared about exotic animals and wanted to have a place where people could come and see them and appreciate them. And then between the meth and the gay sex with straight men and just his whole lifestyle got away from him.
Yeah.
And it's the absolute power thing. He was ruling his own little kingdom and he could control everything that went in and out. And now he's stuck in his own little kingdom of a jail cell with no control. And it turns out it's horrible.
Well, what's funny is he's in a cage in somebody else's kingdom, right? A prison system
exactly.
is just another type of kingdom, and he's just another attraction within that kingdom.
And he's
now.
an uninteresting...
Another tiger.
Yeah, he's not even
feels,
a particularly spectacular tiger. Yeah.
Right, but he's another tiger who feels not only does he not belong in there, but it's not right for him to have to even live like that.
That
It's
is...
like, yeah, that's every fucking animal you ever locked up
Yeah,
to.
that is a poetic
So
irony.
Yeah.
For sure.
So that was my big takeaway from the series, and it's why I would tell people who maybe after 2 or 3 episodes in, they're like, "This is too grotesque. I have to look away." Just finish it out because
All right,
it is
let's go watch the
grotesque.
rest.
I
and it's
really
amazing.
want to watch
I might be convinced.
Yeah.
The big takeaway I had was like all these people seem to have like childhood trauma that leads them
Yeah.
to be like the weird adults that
So
they
the
become.
solution is $1,000 a month, no strings attached, folks. Oh fuck, we should have done this episode.
Is
6 months
this
ago.
a Tiger King UBI
Hashtag
episode?
gang gang? Yeah, Johnny,
No, if
you want
he
to
had
give those
$1,000
people
a month.
$1,000 a month? Is that what
No,
you're saying?
because this is what would happen. Think about someone like the doc guy. He would convince those women, you sign over your $1,000 a month
Yeah.
to me, and it'll
Right.
go to the Tigers. And
Right.
if he can get a dozen,
And I'll
20
feed
women,
you all the Walmart expired meat.
that's
that you
20
want.
grand a month. Yeah, he could spend
Yeah,
on
you're
expired
right.
meat to abuse even more animals. So
Yeah.
I don't know if UBI would help this situation because people are still easily manipulated and taken advantage of.
But some people like Carol, she could have left her. She could have left her husband.
But the root of the manipulation is often like
'Cause she said
Would she have,
desperation.
though? Would she have?
Well, that's the other part of it. Is would she actually have the wherewithal to do that? I don't know. I don't know the answer to these.
We'll
larger
leave that
questions.
for Tiger King episode 2 analysis.
I think I got you guys. I think there's a Tiger 2 coming down.
Tiger 2,
Gotcha.
Return of the
there's
King.
a Luke and
Tiger
Joe
2
have
Electric
finally finished
Boogaloo.
Tiger King.
Yeah, we're
So
gonna
you
go
guys are
finish watching
kind of all quarantined together, so you can always like see what the
Essentially,
other
yeah.
one's up to. You're
Yeah.
all kind of still working from home,
the
whereas like
masks
my
on.
spouse is working and I'm not. So I have long periods
Aren't
of
you
the day to just sit and think about.
Aren't you
this
concerned
stuff.
that I just got a mask
So
drop
you-
off?
you-
No, it's
uh,
great because I live
No,
here.
that's great.
You
Yeah.
got to think about Tiger King a lot.
I went way too deep on it. Way too
No,
deep.
I like going deep on things.
But it's
All right.
also part of why it's landed. It's that escapist thing. It's such a world to get.
Yeah, it's
immersed
the
in.
Jerry
I don't have to
Springer
think about
effect, for
the
sure,
shit
in
going
part.
on in
Yeah.
our world. All right, I'm gonna hit stop.
All right. Thanks, guys, for listening. Like, share, and subscribe. Check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/ThunkTankPodcast. We have tons of fantastic extras for you.
I'm about to post a drunk tank on there.
Yeah. Is that going to be...
It'll be up by the time you hear this.
Is that going to be Burrowcast?
It's going to be called Why You Should Not Play the Lotto. And the
Oh,
reason I
God.
called it that is I listened to it, and it was not okay to post that on the regular out there feed.
That was about my concern with shooting that episode.
Yeah.
Or posting
Whatever
that
we did
episode,
on
yeah.
that episode, yeah.
Yeah. So check that out. Again,
Thanks for listening, all you cool cats and kittens.
What's the name of our website?
Tiger-tastic.
Patreon.com/ThunkTankPodcast.
Yeah.
That's
And
the one. Yeah.
bye-bye.
Until then, watch out for the cats out there, you crazy cats.
Yeah, watch out for the cats. Oh, God. Okay,
Yeah,
bye.
hit stop.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the Thunk Tank podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to help us out, please consider leaving a rating or a review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share it with people you think might like it. And if you really want to support us, you can go over to patreon.com/ThunkTankPodcast. We have links to this in the episode description and other places. And for as little as $1 an episode, you can help us keep the lights on. And you also get access to a very special Drunk Tank feed of episodes. So every few episodes, we'll have a few more beers and record an extra 20 to 30 minutes of extra thunky, silly whateverness. So there's a separate RSS link you can get from there, and if you put that into a podcast player, you'll get your own separate feed of only the Drunk Tanks. I think we have about 6 or 7 of them out already, and more to come. Thanks for listening, and stay funky.